everyone, I'm Xander and welcome to my channel. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people on whose lands I am broadcasting today to honor their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to any other elders that might be present, that might be watching this. This is, was, and always will be Aboriginal land. Sovereignty was never ceded. This is stolen land. Okay, today's video is about a song that just came through this weekend. I had another one that came through on the 31st of March, which I'll do next, but this one is fairly demanding and fairly specific. I'm getting some light from somewhere. Where is that? Reflecting my glasses, which is a little distracting, but we shall persevere. It's from one of the curtains. So never mind. As I was saying, this particular song came through Friday. Today is Monday. It came through Friday night. I was binge watching Young Royals, which I had left to such an occasion where I could binge watch it because I knew that that's what I would like to do. And there it was. I was up to episode 5, trying to watch it, episode 5, and in my head, all I could think of was this particular line that started, "The intense and crushing sad washes over what was bad." And it just kept repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating and really loud in my head. And so it's like, okay, in order to actually get back to the Young Royals, I need to record this. So I grabbed my phone and I recorded in my phone that particular line. And I put it down thinking, okay, I've done the recording. I should be able to just get back and enjoy my show. But now, more words started to come. And the knife's edge that I walk competes with daggers that I stalk. In my mind they're dueling now, and I hope I win somehow. And I realized I had a whole verse. So by that time I grabbed my, I'm not sure if you can see this very well, but my notepad, and then I just started writing, which is what it is here. As it was, it all came fairly fast, and there wasn't a lot of crossing out. The second verse came through at a higher pitch. There was a lot of different notes. It was wilder, it was higher. So we start with this fairly low, and then we built up, and it was too high for my vocal range. I couldn't sing it. It's really frustrating when you have something come through and you just can't sing it. Now, if I was a better musician, if I was a musician, and heard a note, I knew, okay, that note is A or E or B flat or whatever, it would be so much easier. I could just write it down as a music score, and I don't know, play it later or something. Or if I was better, I'm trying to learn the guitar, but if I was better at the guitar, I might be able to get the strings so that I could match the string to my note that I was hearing and at least knowing what note that was. But I can do neither of those things. And I haven't figured out a good way of catching the song so that when I hear a note, I know what note it is. I can only sing it as I hear it, or as close to as I hear it as possible. So when things come through and I struggle to sing it, it's really kind of problematic. It's like, if I'm being haunted by a song, how can I bring the song through if I can't sing it and I can't play it? It becomes really complex and complicated. So I recorded it to the best of my ability with a whole bunch of notes on a Word file on my phone. Everything that I was getting that was coming through with the song, this feeling of being bled out by the song, this feeling of being incredibly drained by the song, of it needing to be sang in such a way that the sad was going down, the sad was pulling you down, the sad was draining you. And because that way I figured the next day when I woke up, I could pick it up and I could see if I could work something out. Because it was the long weekend, Easter long weekend, and I kind of figure I've got time, and let's just pause Young Royals here. I can do season 2, episode 6 the next day and just go to bed, let it do its thing while I'm asleep. And then when I wake up, see what happens. Well, of course, the next day, I was still haunted by my song. It was the first thing that was in my head when I woke up, the intense and crushing sad. And that's when I realized that the song needed to be sang like an ocean, that it was like the ocean waves going out and coming back. And just like the ocean waves are uneven, if you actually look at the ocean, it's not this even back and forth. Some are kind of fast and they might go part way up a beach, and some are much stronger. They might take a while to build, and then they come further up the beach, but they take a while to come. And that the way that the words needed to come out to sing was very much like waves on a shore. And that's when I realized that the knife's edge that I walk was that slither of wet sand between the waves and the dry sand. That gets smaller and smaller as the tide comes in. And because it's covering over what's there. It's not like when the tide goes out and you have this great big expanse like a mirror. It gets smaller. And that while I'm walking, there are these things that I'm contemplating, that I'm trying to deal with, but I can't deal with. Everything is just too, it pierces. No matter where I go, I have things piercing me, the daggers that I stalk. I can't deal with the things because they are sharp and they hurt. And so I'm trying to walk this knife edge. I'm trying to deal with these daggers that are harmful in some way. They're hurting. And that's why they're dueling in my mind, because I'm trying to balance all of these things and it's becoming difficult. So essentially that's kind of where the first verse is. By the lunchtime on the Saturday, I realized that I should give up trying to sing the tune that was coming through for the second verse. I was not going to get it. My vocal range just wasn't going to cut it. And I wouldn't be able to get the notes in that higher range that originally came through. So it was just like, well, okay, what if I sang the second verse in the same tune as the first verse and let it come through that way? And that just worked. And so I recorded it and put it on my Instagram, because basically when I have a song and it's finished in a way that I'm satisfied with, I will record it and I'll put it on my Instagram. So it went on my Instagram and I was like, okay, it's recorded, it's up. I should be free of this song now. Only that didn't happen. So on the Sunday, I still had any moment that I was sort of alone with my thoughts. The intense and crushing sad was just going around and around in my head. And I couldn't get away from it. It was just like, crap, don't tell me there's a third freaking verse here. and that I haven't got through. And if there is, it hasn't come through yet. But I still am being woken up, haunted by the song. It's now Monday, and I woke up yet again singing the song. And I realized this morning that a few things, that the image that comes with the song is of an ocean becoming increasingly murky. You're on the sand looking out at this ocean, and the sky is getting those sort of overcast gray clouds rolling in, and the sky is getting darker. And so therefore the sea is getting those really intense, murky, dark colors that happens when the sun goes away. And the mist starts coming up off the ocean, and it makes these colors because it's reflecting the sky, it's reflecting the ocean. So it's not like white or clear like in a paddock. It comes up and it's like a pea soup, more so than anything else. It's a murky colored mist. And then at some particular point towards at the very end of the song, the clouds part and the moon, full moon, shines down and offering a pathway. So that was the image that came going out this morning. And this morning, the other thing that I recognized and realized was that this was connected to another song that I wrote some time ago called Lady on the Foreshore, which you'll find on my blog, stoneacorn.blog. I refer to that song as a fragment because I always knew there was more to it. There's a couple of differences. Lady on the Foreshore is recorded in third person, and this song is in first person, and I'll perform it in a minute. Another thing that was different was Lady on the Foreshore is a very confident person. She's a cunning person. She is somebody who listens and is connected with nature around her, and therefore when she's wanting answers to things, she goes to the ocean, which is her realm, stands on the shore, and she's able to see answers, see portents in the waves, in the wind, in the gulls, in what's around her. That's the way the song is. But in this particular song, the person on the beach does not have answers, only this intensifying problem. The second verse, yet they caught me to my bone, yet they caught me to my bone, that never-ending high-pitched tone. You know, when something is setting your teeth on edge, those fingernails down the blackboard kind of sound, where it just makes your every being on edge and you just can't relax. You just get more and more and more tense. And that is where the second verse comes into it. It's just like, not only is she sort of trying to deal with this thing where everywhere she turns, she's got things stabbing at her. Let's just say it's her, if it's a continuation of Lady of the Foreshore. If we need to gender this particular person, it seems reasonable to say she. And then, you know, whose screeches bleed my ear. She can't hear anymore. She can't listen. She can't connect, or they can't connect anymore to the natural realm, to the world around them. They can't even connect to themselves. Their ears are bleeding. Unleashing every fear I've ever held or ever known. And so therefore being confronted by shadows as the ocean becomes murkier, you've got shadow on shadow on shadow being reflected. And that's essentially where that particular part of the song is. All the inner shadows, all these things that you hold because you fear them in some way, or there is some sense of uncomfortableness or tension around them that you haven't addressed and you haven't dealt with. And perhaps it's because it's just too complicated. It's just too hard. And sometimes things are just too overwhelming. And The last line is, I feel so very far from home. And of course, our home is here, where our heart is. Yeah. We can't really expect to make a home anywhere else if we're not at home with ourselves, because otherwise it's just going to be a space that you happen to crash in, but it's not going to be a home unless you're at home with yourself first. So the thing about this particular song is you have this very conflicted individual trying to deal and wrestle with their inner demons, with their shadow self. And they're not able to come home to themselves until they actually deal with these things. So that's essentially what the song is about. As I said, it is on my Insta, and very shortly it'll be on my blog. So the words of the song, and there'll be a copy of the Insta post will be on my blog soonish. But in order to illustrate how the song goes like this. The intense and crushing sad washes over what was bad. The intense and crushing sad washes over what was bad. Let me just pause a minute. I think I'll need to change the sound. I found at one other particular bit when I was singing that, because of the audio settings, half the stuff wasn't coming through right. So let me just change the sound settings. All right, I've done that. Let's start again. Okay, so it goes like this. The intense and crushing sad washes over what was bad. The intense and crushing sad washes over what was bad. And the knife's edge that I walk competes with daggers that I stalk. In my mind they're dueling now, and I hope I win somehow. Yet they cut me to my bone, that never-ending high-pitched tone. Yet they cut me to my bone, that never-ending high-pitched tone, whose screeches bleed my ears, unleashing all my fears I've ever held or ever known. I feel so very far from home. So essentially that's the song. I also want to point out, sad songs, when they come through or when somebody sings them, doesn't mean to say that the individual is sad and about to do something drastic. It just means the song is sad. And this song came through extremely sad. And I put it on my Instagram, and I think it's about an hour or two later, I got a message from people asking me if I'm okay, because they saw the song. So I just want to point that out. Sad songs, when they come up, don't necessarily mean somebody's about to do something drastic. Sad songs quite often provide us with a means to get out something that we've been holding on to that might make us do something drastic. Sometimes sad songs are the best thing. If we think about music styles, for example, the blues. Now, the blues is about singing out the sad, not about embracing the sad in a way that's going to be harmful. It was embracing the sad in a way that was making the singer powerful. Not that I'm an expert in blues music, but blues music, emo music are some of the kinds of styles that I do listen to when I happen to be in a downturned frame of mind in order to turn myself around. And listening to people talk about the blues and what they're singing about, like Lady Day, like Billie Holiday, for example. It's a very powerful music style, meant and intended to make the singer, to make the people who are listening to it embrace their power. They're powerful by singing it, by embracing this thing, by releasing all of these things that they're dealing with into the music. So the other thing that came through about the song and how it should be sung, because it's not a ritual song, when it came through, that wasn't sort of like, this is the intention of the song. You can definitely use the song if you want to sing through some kind of personal shadow work. If you wanted to, as a way of focusing, or maybe focusing on one or two phrases from it, if you would like to use it in that way. But it wasn't written with that purpose in mind. The music that started to come through once I had the tune and the words down, and the image was something like a chamber orchestra with the strings and harp and piano, and voices, like a chorus, like a Greek chorus of wind, like that kind of a toning, like ooh, in the background. So like that kind of a voice, and the harp picking up the melody when it's sort of starting, and then other stringed instruments coming into it. If it needs to go high, maybe a violin. If it goes down, like a cello kind of sound, or double bass, something like really deep, playing with the melody as it goes up to give it layers and levels and flow. And the piano also sometimes doing the melody, but the piano and harp also doing like a trill, but on a scale, sort of like going down like water, or like bird song in the background, so that you have these trill sounds as well. And that's kind of how I was starting to hear it. And so that it's sort of done orchestrally, and you have this voice over top of that. That's kind of how it is in my head, the way that I was hearing it this morning. That's how it was coming through, this very big orchestral movie score type sound. One of my influences musically is Donovan. When I was young, we got hold of an album called Songs of the Protest Era, and one of the songs that really stood out was Universal Soldier by Donovan. And Donovan's music and that kind of folk style, I've always been kind of interested in. A Brother, Sun, Sister Moon soundtrack, things like that. So this feels very much that kind of vibe. It reminded me of the way that Donovan sings in the movie Brother, Sun, Sister Moon, where they have these particular things, and Donovan's voice comes through very simply over top of this orchestral sound. So that's generally the style of the song as I was hearing it. see, is there anything else I can say about this particular song? And the way it should be sung. Well, I've already mentioned that it needs to be sung in the way that waves come into the shore, and that the way that it is sung is slightly uneven because waves come into the shore in slightly uneven ways. And I see the first verse as being fairly calm and steady, and the second verse is a more wild, but more deep, more dark tones in the voice. The voice becomes a bit layered if you're have that kind of technique and quality to your voice. It becomes that kind of a heavier, more atmospheric sound, and the movement is a little bit more erratic, so it's not as even when you're singing it, as far as going in and out. And by singing in like it's waves, I'm talking about things like, if you imagine this is the ocean and over here is the shore, it starts like the intense and crushing sand washes over what was bad. But by the time you get to the second voice, whose screeches bleed my ears, unleashing every fear I've ever held or ever known. So it's a lot wilder, and the ocean is more unpredictable. So when singing it, there is that kind of slightly off rhythm as it comes through until you get to the last line, which returns to stillness of the first verse. So the last line, especially the last few words from home, need to have that kind of monotone from, same note just going out, because image wise, that's when the moon comes out and lights the path. So they're wanting to go home, and the moon comes out to light the way. So musically, something will lift them. The song doesn't actually deal with the resolution, only the situation. So whether they follow the path and they end up in the ocean, whether they see something in the clouds or the conditions that gives them a sign and they know what they need to do, whether they just sort of sit there and just let it all out and shriek into the winds, whatever they happen to do to deal with the situation is not in the song. Whether it comes as another future verse, I don't know, but that's essentially where the song leaves us at that particular point, because it's about that moment of intensity and of trying to find one's way home and of trying to negotiate this just overwhelming tsunami of emotion in order to be able to come home to themselves. So anyway, I hope that you found this interesting. I'll continue to do them. I'll also make sure that I put a link to the blog page once it's up in the description. I'll try and do that with the earlier ones. They're up now. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye.